sort of the next thing is, did we rush these vaccines? So as I said, we've been working on vaccines and vaccine technology for over a century, and so this isn't really anything new for us. What tends to be a little bit new with the COVID sort of vaccine specifically is some of the technology that we're using to produce the vaccines. And so the big one is the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines, which were made of mRNA. So yes, we first learned about COVID late December, and within about a few months even, we started thinking about vaccine trials. So that mRNA technology, we didn't develop it once we found out about the COVID virus. That's been going on since the 1980s, sort of the technology with mRNA. And then for the last 2 decades really, large pharmaceutical companies have sort of been putting this in the wings, doing some work on this every year, just in case we were faced with a situation like the COVID-19 pandemic. So this isn't something that took 6 months and we got it from start to in the first person's arm. That's not how it happened. But it was new for the first time for use in COVID. And so the next thing is, did we rush it to market? Did we test it enough? And so the thing about that is no steps were skipped. And sort of the way that I like to explain this is that we didn't rush it. What we did is we paid for expedited shipping. So we paid for expedited shipping in a couple ways. The first way is that we sort of overlapped a lot of the clinical trials. Normally, it is not a good money investment to run phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials all at the same time. The reason that's not a very good money decision is because if phase 1 fails, you should stop because you shouldn't go any further with that technology, that medicine, that chemotherapy. It's just not worth it. However, because of how many people this was affecting across the globe, people thought this is a huge problem, and governments, nonprofit organizations, research institutions, they all said, to heck with the money issues, we're going to do phase 1, and then we're sort of going to overlap some of these subsequent trials, and so that way we can do them simultaneously. And if it doesn't work, it would have been wasted money. But we got pretty lucky with a couple of the vaccine manufacturers and got some pretty amazing vaccines. So that's one way we paid for expedited shipping. Now, the way that a clinical trial runs, particularly for these vaccines, is we recruit a whole bunch of people. So it was between 30 and 40,000 individuals for the phase 3 trials, depending on whether it was J&J or Pfizer or Moderna. And what we do is we just split people up. The patients don't know, the researchers don't know, the company doesn't know, nobody knows how you get allocated. Some people get a placebo, some people get the vaccine, and then we wait. And the thing that we're waiting on is for people to get sick. And so the bad part about this is that so many of our community members, our countrymen, and world citizens, because the COVID virus was spreading uncontrolled, we didn't have to wait very long for people to get sick. So before we start the study, we say we need to wait until we get X number of events. And so it's a little bit different for each study. So I will make up a number, say we need 200 infections to happen. Once you reach that predetermined number, everyone gets unblinded. We say person A got placebo, person B got the vaccine, and then we split everyone up who had the infections. And then what we want to see is that 198 of the people who had infections had placebo. Only 2 of them had the vaccine. And then we say, great, that works really well. And so because of how widespread and how much community spread there was early on in the pandemic, particularly here in the US where a lot of the trials were being done, we reached that predetermined number really fast. If these trials would have been done, say, in New Zealand, when they got control of the virus really, really fast, the trials would still be going. So we didn't speed anything up. It was an unfortunate sort of effect of the pandemic that we had people sort of paying for the expedited shipping with illness and loss of life. So we paid for expedited shipping that way as well. The last thing, and again, this sort of goes back to money making and, big pharma and that sort of thing, is nobody wants to produce something ahead of time if they don't know that it works for sure. However, this goes back to governments and nonprofits and all of that sort of thing. They dumped a bunch of money in these companies to say, hey, we know that we don't know that it works yet, but what we want you to do is to start making these vaccines, and we want a big stockpile. So that way, the second that we know that they're good, they're safe, they're effective, we can start rolling it out. And so, in my opinion, this was a marvel of modern medicine that we got these out so fast. And I think it's truly, truly a marvel. But none of it was actually rushed. It happened quickly, which was a good thing, but all of the steps happened sequentially as they're supposed to. We just paid for expedited shipping.